Captain Jake Reynolds tried not to smile as the room full of alien diplomats stared at the ship design floating in the air. The blue hologram showed every detail of the UES Phoenix, humanity's newest warship. It looked sleek and dangerous, even as just a picture. The meeting room on Galactic Union Station Alpha was big and round, with seats for all 12 alien races. The lights were dim so everyone could see the hologram clearly. Reynolds stood with Admiral Wilson, who was pointing at different parts of the ship design. As you can see, Admiral Wilson said, "We've put the quantum pulse drive next to the shield generator. This makes the ship use much less power than normal." The room was quiet. Too quiet. Reynolds looked at the aliens' faces. The bug-like Trill seemed angry. The blue-skinned Veldorans looked shocked. The rock-like Arctians were hard to read, but they were leaning forward, always a sign of interest. Finally, the Trill ambassador stood up. He was tall, with a hard shell and clicking mouthparts. "This is impossible," he said, his voice sharp and loud. "The energy would tear your ship apart. You agreed to these limits when you joined us." Reynolds knew this would happen. Humans had only been part of the Galactic Union for 15 years. They were the newest members by hundreds of years. When Earth joined, they had to follow rules about what kinds of weapons and ships they could build. These rules kept peace between all the different alien races. The Phoenix broke those rules. Well, sort of. Admiral Wilson slid a small crystal across the table. It contained all the technical data about the ship. "We found a gap in the rules," he said calmly. "The Proxima Accords limit how much power ships can use, not how the parts are arranged. The Phoenix follows every specific rule." The Veldoran admiral, named Thos, hit the table with his webbed hand. His blue skin turned purple with anger. "This warship shouldn't exist. You've twisted our rules." "We've looked at them creatively," Reynolds said. He stepped forward. "And with the hive bugs attacking neutral space, the Union needs all the help it can get." The room erupted in angry voices. Some aliens shouted, others whispered to each other. The Phoenix wasn't just a ship, it was a statement. Humans had found a way around rules that had limited everyone else for centuries. 3 days later, Reynolds sat in a small bar on the lower level of the station. The place was designed to make all species comfortable, with different gravity settings in different areas. Reynolds sat in the human section, drinking something that was supposed to taste like whiskey, but didn't quite manage it. "Is this seat taken?" a voice asked. Reynolds looked up to see Mira, his old friend, and the lead engineer on the Phoenix project. She was tall and thin with dark hair pulled back tightly. "Please," he said, gesturing to the empty chair. "How did the technical review go?" Mira sat down with a groan. 6 hours of explaining our design to angry aliens, but they couldn't find any actual rule violations. Just a lot of "this isn't how things are done." Reynolds smiled. "That's humanity's specialty, not doing things how they're done." The Arctian representative actually seemed impressed. Mira said, ordering a drink with a wave of her hand. "Ask a lot of smart questions. The Trill and Veldorans are pushing for an emergency council vote to ban the design specifically," Reynolds said. "But word is they don't have enough support. Because half the council is secretly excited to see what the ship can do," Mira said with a small smile. "Even if they won't admit it." Reynolds nodded. The Galactic Union had been at peace for so long that many species had stopped innovating. The same ship designs had been used for hundreds of years. The Phoenix was something new. "Did you hear?" Mira asked, lowering her voice. "They're giving you command of the Phoenix." Reynolds sat up straighter. "What? When was this decided?" "This morning. Admiral Wilson pushed for it. Said you understand the ship better than anyone else." Reynolds felt excitement and worry at the same time. The Phoenix was untested. Theoretical. It might work perfectly, or it might explode the first time they tried to use the quantum drive. "When do we launch?" he asked. 2 weeks, Mira said. "They're rushing it because of the hive attacks. I'll be coming as chief engineer, by the way. Reynolds raised his glass. To breaking the rules. Mira clinked her glass against his. To breaking them creatively. 1 week later, Reynolds stood in a large observation room, looking at the Phoenix as it sat in the massive construction dock. The ship was bigger than he expected. 500 meters long, with smooth black armor and blue energy lines running along its hull. Impressive, isn't it? Admiral Wilson said, walking up beside him. It's beautiful, Reynolds said honestly. The council vote failed, Wilson said. The Phoenix has official approval to launch, though 6 species filed formal protests. Reynolds turned to face the admiral. Sir, can I ask you something? Wilson nodded. Was this the plan all along? To force the Union to change? Wilson looked out at the ship for a long moment. The Union has been stuck for centuries, Captain. Same ships, same weapons, same tactics. Meanwhile, the hive keeps evolving, keeps getting stronger. Someone needed to shake things up. And that someone was us. Humans are good at breaking rules, Reynolds. Always have been. It's our best quality and our worst. But right now, the galaxy needs rule breakers. Reynolds looked back at the Phoenix. What are my orders once we launch? Patrol the border near the Cygnus corridor. Show the flag. Let the hive see what they're up against. Reynolds nodded. The Cygnus corridor was the latest area under attack by the hive. A growing threat of insect-like aliens different from the Trill. No one knew where they came from, but they had been attacking outer colonies for the past year. 1 week until launch, Wilson said. Your crew is being notified now. Any of them aliens? Reynolds asked. Wilson shook his head. Not this time. The other species weren't ready to put their people on an impossible ship. Their loss, Reynolds said. Indeed, Wilson agreed, though I suspect that will change after the Phoenix proves itself. As Wilson left, Reynolds kept looking at his new command, the ship that shouldn't exist, the rule breaker. In 1 week, they would find out if breaking the rules was enough to face what was coming. 1 week passed quickly. Launch day arrived with little fanfare. The Galactic Union leadership had decided a quiet departure was best. No ceremony, no speeches. The Phoenix slipped away from the station like a secret being whispered to the stars. Captain Reynolds stood on the bridge, watching as his crew worked at their stations. Everything was new. The screens, the chairs, even the air smelled new. The bridge was bigger than standard Union ships, with a wide view screen showing the blackness of space ahead. All systems check complete, Captain, said Commander Davis, his second in command. Davis was a solid man with a calm voice. We are ready to engage main engines. Reynolds nodded. Take us out, Helm. 1/4 power. Lieutenant Parker, a young woman with short blonde hair, touched the controls. 1/4 power, by. The Phoenix moved smoothly, its engines barely making a sound. That was one of the strange things about the ship. It was quieter than it should be. The quantum pulse drive, when not at full power, hummed instead of roared. We've cleared the station's traffic zone, sir, Parker reported. Set course for the Cygnus corridor, standard speed, Reynolds ordered. Let's break her in gently before we try anything fancy. As the ship accelerated, Reynolds felt a surge of pride. The Phoenix might be controversial, but it was his now, his responsibility, his command. He pressed a button on his chair. Bridge to engineering. Engineering here, Mira's voice replied. How are things looking down there, Chief? The engines are purring like kittens, Captain, but I'm watching the quantum drive temperatures. They're running a bit hot, even at standard speed. Reynolds frowned. Anything to worry about? Not yet, Mira said, but I'd like to make some adjustments before we try a quantum jump. You've got 2 days before we reach the patrol zone. Make whatever changes you need. Understood, Captain. Engineering out. Reynolds leaned back in his chair. The first real test would come when they had to use the quantum pulse drive at full power. That was the heart of the Phoenix's impossible design, the drive that could push the ship faster than any other in the Union fleet, in theory. The next day, Reynolds toured the ship, meeting the crew and checking each department. The Phoenix carried 200 people, small for a ship its size, but the advanced systems meant fewer crew were needed. His last stop was engineering, where he found Mira under a large panel, only her legs sticking out. Tools were scattered around her. "Problems?" he asked. Mira slid out, her face smudged with grease. "Just making adjustments. The quantum drive is designed to work with the shield generators in a way no one's tried before. Everything looks good on paper, but paper doesn't fly in space," Reynolds finished. It was an old saying among spacers. "Exactly." Mira stood up and wiped her hands on a rag. "I've reduced the power flow by 6%. It should run cooler now. Will that affect performance?" "It means we'll use slightly more energy when we jump, but the system will be more stable. Better safe than scattered across 3 sectors." Reynolds nodded. "Good call." Alarm sounded, and both their communicators beeped at the same time. "Captain to the bridge," came Commander Davis's voice. Reynolds and Mira exchanged looks before they both ran for the door. When Reynolds reached the bridge, Davis was standing by the communications station. "Report," Reynolds said. "We've received a distress call from the mining colony on Vega AX," Davis explained. "They're under attack by hive forces." Reynolds moved to the main screen, which now showed a star map. "Where's Vega AX in relation to us?" "Here, sir," Davis pointed. 8 hours away at Standard Drive. Lieutenant Mason, the communications officer, looked up from her station. "Sir, the message says they're facing 3 hive cruisers. Their shields are failing." "Any other Union ships in range?" Reynolds asked. "The U.S. Defender is 10 hours out," Mason replied. "They're already at maximum speed." Reynolds felt the weight of command press down on him. Vega IX was a small mining colony with about 10,000 people. If the shields failed before help arrived, "What about us?" he asked, turning to Davis. "How quickly could we reach them using the quantum drive?" Davis hesitated. 30 minutes at full capacity. "But sir, we haven't tested it yet." Reynolds looked around the bridge. Everyone was watching him, waiting for his decision. "Mira," he said into his communicator, "can the drive get us to Vega IX?" "Yes," she replied, "but I can't promise it won't shake us apart in the process." Reynolds made his decision. Alert medical to prepare for possible casualties. All hands to emergency stations. He sat in his command chair. "Helm, plot a course to Vega IX. Prepare for quantum jump." The bridge crew moved quickly, securing stations and checking systems. "Course plotted, sir," Parker reported. "Engineering reports quantum drive ready," Mason added. Reynolds took a deep breath. "Engage quantum drive. Full power." Parker pushed the controls forward. The ship hummed louder, then louder still until the sound became a deep throb that they could feel through the floor. "Quantum field forming," Davis reported, watching his screen. "Drive power at 80%, 90,100%. The view on the screen stretched and blurred. Reynolds gripped his chair as the ship shuddered around them. "We're entering quantum space," Parker said, her voice tight with concentration. The shuddering grew worse. A console at the back of the bridge sparked and went dark. "Power surge in Section 4. Someone called out. "Reroute through secondary systems," Reynolds ordered. The ship lurched sideways, throwing 2 crew members from their seats. "Captain," Mira's voice came through the speakers. "The quantum field is destabilizing. The drive housing is showing microfractures." "How long to Vega IX?" Reynolds asked Davis. 22 minutes at current speed." Another panel exploded in sparks. The lights flickered. "Shield generators are overheating," Davis reported. "If they fail while we're in quantum space." He didn't need to finish. Everyone knew what would happen. The ship would be torn apart. "Mira, "Can you stabilize the drive?" Reynolds asked. "I'm trying. Diverting coolant now. It's working, temperature dropping. But the microfractures are still spreading." Reynolds faced an impossible choice: push on and risk his ship and crew, or drop out of quantum space and reach Vega IX too late. "Captain," Davis said quietly, "Vega IX has 10,000 civilians." Reynolds nodded. "Maintain course and speed. Mira, do whatever you have to. Keep that drive together for 20 more minutes." "I'll try, Captain. But you need to know, even if we make it there, we may not make it back. One problem at a time, Chief." Reynolds turned to Mason. "Send a message to Vega IX. Tell them help is coming." As the impossible ship pushed deeper into quantum space, systems straining beyond their limits, Reynolds watched the countdown timer. 20 minutes until they reached Vega IX. 20 minutes to prove that breaking the rules had been worth it. 20 minutes to save 10,000 lives, or lose everything trying. The Phoenix shuddered again, harder this time. Warning lights flashed across every console. "Hold together," Reynolds whispered to his ship. "Just hold together." The Phoenix burst out of quantum space with a flash of blue light. The ship shook violently one last time, then steadied. Emergency alarms blared across all decks. "Status report," Reynolds demanded, gripping his chair as the bridge stopped shaking. Davis checked his console, which flickered twice before stabilizing. "We've arrived at Vega IX, Captain. Quantum drive is offline. Hull integrity at 94%. Shields at 85%. Weapon systems?" Reynolds asked. "Online and functional," reported Lieutenant Wells from the tactical station. Reynolds looked at the main view screen. The scene before them was chaos. 3 massive Hive cruisers surrounded the small mining colony of Vega IX. The colony's shields glowed weakly under constant bombardment from Hive weapons. "Time until their shields fail?" Reynolds asked. Mason checked her readings. 15 minutes at most, sir." "Open a channel to the colony," Reynolds ordered. After a moment, Mason nodded. "Channel open. This is Captain Reynolds of the UES Phoenix. We've received your distress call and are moving to engage the Hive forces. Hold on a little longer." A strained voice replied over the speakers. "Phoenix, this is Governor Bell. Thank God you're here. Our generators can't take much more. We have 10,000 people in the shelters." "We'll handle it," Reynolds promised. "Phoenix out." He turned to Davis. "Tactical assessment." Davis studied the display. 3 Hive cruisers, standard formation. "They haven't noticed us yet. They're focused on the colony." Reynolds nodded. "Let's use that to our advantage. Target the lead cruiser with the main cannon." The Phoenix's main weapon was the heart of its controversial design. By linking the quantum drive to the weapon systems, the ship could fire energy beams that no standard shield could stop. "Target locked," Wells confirmed. "Mira," Reynolds called through the communicator. "Can we fire the main cannon?" "Yes," she replied, her voice tight with stress. "But the quantum drive took heavy damage during the jump. We won't be jumping again anytime soon." "Understood. Prepare to fire main cannon." The bridge grew quiet as the weapon system charged. The Phoenix hummed with power as energy flowed from its core to the forward cannon. "Weapon at full charge," Wells reported. Reynolds leaned forward in his chair. "Fire." A brilliant beam of blue-white energy shot from the Phoenix. It crossed the space between them and the lead Hive cruiser in an instant. The beam cut through the alien ship shields like they weren't even there. The cruiser's hull split open, venting atmosphere and debris into space. "Direct hit," Wells called out. "Enemy vessel critically damaged." The view screen showed the Hive cruiser breaking apart, secondary explosions rippling along its length. "The other Hive ships are breaking off their attack on the colony," Davis reported. "They're turning to engage us." Reynolds had expected this. "Helm, bring us between the Hive and the colony." "Tactical, prepare secondary weapons." The Phoenix moved smoothly into position, its engines pushing it faster than a ship its size should be able to move. On the view screen, the two remaining Hive cruisers grew larger as they approached. "They're powering weapons," Wells warned. "Raise shields to maximum," Reynolds ordered. "Evasive pattern Delta." The first shots from the Hive ships flashed across space. Most missed as the Phoenix twisted away, but two hit directly. The ship rocked under the impact. "Shields holding at 72%, Davis reported. "Return fire. All secondary cannons," Reynolds ordered. The Phoenix's smaller weapons opened up, sending pulses of energy toward the Hive ships. Unlike the main cannon, these were standard Union weapons, and the Hive shields blocked most of the shots. "Minimal damage to enemy vessels," Wells said. Reynolds frowned. The main cannon needed time to recharge after its first shot. They would have to hold out until it was ready again. "Captain, we're being hailed," Mason said with surprise. "By the Hive." This was unusual. The Hive rarely communicated with Union forces. "On screen," Reynolds said. The view screen changed to show a Hive commander. The alien looked like a giant insect with multiple eyes and a hard exoskeleton. Its mandibles clicked as it spoke. "Human vessel," the Hive commander said, its voice translated by the ship's computer. "Your ship configuration is unknown to us. You have destroyed one of our cruisers. Surrender now or be destroyed." Reynolds stood up from his chair. "This is Captain Reynolds of the UES Phoenix. You are attacking a civilian colony in Union space. It is you who should surrender." The Hive commander's eyes seemed to narrow. "Your ship should not exist. Our scans show impossible energy readings." "That's why it's called the Phoenix," Reynolds replied with a small smile. "Now back away from the colony, or we'll show you what else this impossible ship can do." The Hive commander clicked its mandibles angrily. "You will be destroyed." The screen went dark. "Well, that went well," Davis commented dryly. "How long until the main cannon can fire again?" Reynolds asked. 3 minutes, Wells replied. "We might not have 3 minutes," Davis warned. "Both Hive cruisers are moving to flank us." Reynolds thought quickly. The Phoenix's regular weapons couldn't penetrate the Hive shields effectively, and their main advantage was temporarily unavailable. "Mira," he called to engineering. "What's the status of the shield generators?" "Running hot but stable," she replied. "What are you thinking?" "Can we reverse the energy flow? Push power outward instead of holding it in?" There was a pause before Mira answered. "You want to create a shield pulse. That's never been tested." "Theory suggests it should work," Reynolds insisted. "Theory suggested this whole ship would tear itself apart," Mira reminded him. "But yes, I think I can do it. It will drain our shields completely for about 30 seconds. "That's our window," Reynolds decided. "Do it on my mark." He turned to Wells. "The moment our shield pulse hits them, target their propulsion systems with everything we've got." Both Hive cruisers were now on either side of the Phoenix, trapping it in a crossfire. Their weapons pounded against the Phoenix's shields. "Shields down to 45%, Davis reported. "We can't take much more of this." "Stand by," Reynolds ordered. He waited until the Hive ships were at their closest approach. "Now, Mira, shield pulse." The lights on the bridge dimmed as power surged to the shield generators. For a moment, nothing seemed to happen. Then the Phoenix's shields expanded outward in a wave of blue energy. The pulse slammed into both Hive cruisers simultaneously, making their shields flicker and distort. "Fire all weapons," Reynolds ordered. The Phoenix's secondary cannons fired in unison, targeting the engines of both Hive vessels. With their shields disrupted by the pulse, the shots hit home, causing explosions across their hulls. "Direct hits," Wells reported excitedly. "Their engines are damaged. Their shields are failing." "Main cannon status?" Reynolds asked. "Ready to fire in 30 seconds. Reynolds nodded. "Target the cruiser on the left. Prepare to fire." The Hive ships, damaged but not destroyed, We're trying to move away from the Phoenix. They're retreating, Davis said with surprise. Not far enough, Reynolds replied. Fire main cannon. Once again, the brilliant beam shot from the Phoenix. It struck the targeted Hive cruiser midsection, cutting it nearly in half. The alien ship broke apart in a series of explosions. The last Hive cruiser accelerated away, limping on damaged engines. Should we pursue? Davis asked. Reynolds considered this. No. Our priority is the colony. Let it go. He turned to Mason. Contact Governor Bell. Tell him the colony is secure. As Mason relayed the message, the bridge crew broke into smiles and quiet cheers. They had done the impossible. A single ship defeating 3 Hive cruisers and saving 10,000 lives. Reynolds looked at the broken remains of the destroyed Hive ships on the view screen. The impossible ship just did the impossible, Davis said quietly. Reynolds nodded. And the galaxy will never be the same. 3 days after the battle at Vega IX, the Phoenix remained in orbit around the mining colony. The quantum drive was still offline, and Mira's engineering team worked around the clock to repair it. Standard Union ships had arrived to help the colony and provide additional protection. Captain Reynolds sat in his quarters, reviewing reports on a screen. There was a knock at his door. Enter, he called. Commander Davis stepped inside, holding a datapad. Sir, we've received a message from Union Command. They want us to return to Galactic Union Station Alpha as soon as possible. Reynolds frowned. Did they say why? No, sir, but there's more. The message was marked highest priority and signed by Admiral Wilson himself. Reynolds stood up. How are the repairs coming? Chief Engineer Mira says the quantum drive should be operational in 12 hours. Limited capacity only, maybe 30% of normal power. That will have to do, Reynolds said. Set course for Union Station Alpha. We leave as soon as the drive is ready. Davis hesitated. Sir, there's something else. News of what happened here has spread throughout the Union. We're getting messages from everywhere, some congratulating us, others. He paused. Others not so happy. Reynolds finished for him. Yes, sir. The Trill and Velderan ambassadors have officially protested our unauthorized weapons deployment. Reynolds smiled grimly. We just saved 10,000 lives. You'd think they'd be more grateful. 10,000 human lives, Davis pointed out. And we did it with a ship that breaks all their rules. Reynolds nodded. Prepare the crew for departure. I have a feeling this is just the beginning of our troubles. The return journey took 3 days at reduced speed. When they finally arrived at Union Station Alpha, the Phoenix was escorted by 4 standard Union patrol ships, an honor guard or prison guards. Reynolds wasn't sure which. As they docked, Reynolds stood on the bridge, watching the station grow larger on the view screen. Captain, Mason called from communications. We're being hailed by the station. On screen, Reynolds ordered. Admiral Wilson's face appeared. Captain Reynolds, welcome back. Your presence is requested in Council Chamber 1 immediately upon docking. Bring your first officer and chief engineer. Reynolds nodded. May I ask what this is about, Admiral? The Galactic Union Council has called an emergency session to discuss the Phoenix and its actions at Vega IX. I suggest you prepare to defend yourself, Captain. The screen went dark. That didn't sound good, Davis said quietly. Reynolds straightened his uniform. We did what was right. Now we face the consequences. The Grand Council chamber was the largest room on the station. It was circular, with raised seats for the representatives of all 37 member species of the Galactic Union. In the center was a speaking platform where those addressing the council would stand. The chamber was packed. Every seat was filled, and the viewing galleries were crowded with diplomats, military officers, and journalists from across the galaxy. Reynolds, Davis, and Mira entered and walked to the center platform. Admiral Wilson waited for them there. This is bigger than I expected, Reynolds whispered. The fate of the Phoenix has become the biggest story in the Union. Wilson replied quietly. What you did at Vega IX has forced everyone to take sides. The Velderan Council Chair, Admiral Thos, called the session to order. His blue skin looked almost purple under the chamber lights. This emergency session will now begin, he announced. We are here to discuss the deployment of the UES Phoenix, a ship whose very existence violates the spirit of the Proxima Accords and its actions in the Vega system. The Trill ambassador stood up. The human vessel used weapons of a type expressly forbidden by our agreements. They have upset the balance of power that has kept peace for centuries. Shouts of agreement came from several sections of the chamber. The Archean representative, a crystalline being that glowed softly, raised a limb. Point of order, its translated voice chimed. The Phoenix's weapons were not explicitly forbidden. The humans found a creative solution to work within our rules. Rules that were meant to prevent exactly this kind of military advantage. The Trill insisted. Reynolds watched as the debate grew heated. Different species took different sides. The militaristic races seemed impressed by the Phoenix's capabilities. The diplomatic ones worried about precedent. The scientific minds were simply curious about human innovation. Finally, Admiral Wilson stepped forward. Members of the Council, I remind you that without the Phoenix, Vega IX would have fallen. 10,000 civilian lives were saved because this ship existed. At what cost? Asked the Velderan chair. If every species begins building ships like the Phoenix, where will it end? An arms race. War. Reynolds asked for permission to speak. When it was granted, he stepped to the center of the platform. I am Captain Jake Reynolds of the UES Phoenix. I want to make one thing clear. We did not set out to break your rules. We found a way to solve problems within them. He paused, looking around the chamber. The Phoenix saved lives. That's what ships like ours should do. A representative from a small, peaceful species called the Loomies stood up. They rarely spoke in council meetings. Captain Reynolds, what happens when another species builds ships like yours and uses them not to save lives, but to take them? Reynolds had no easy answer for that. Before he could respond, the chamber doors opened. A tall, insect-like alien entered, but not a Trill. This was a hive commander, flanked by Union security guards. The chamber went silent with shock. The hive rarely sent representatives to the Union. I am Commander Krizak of the Hive Collective. The alien's translator spoke. I have come to provide information about the true threat. Reynolds exchanged glances with Admiral Wilson. This was unexpected. The Hive commander walked to the center of the chamber. The vessel you call Phoenix destroyed 2 of our ships and damaged a 3rd. Such power is impressive. Its mandibles clicked. But you do not understand why we attacked Vega IX. Enlighten us, the Velderan chair said coldly. We detected signals from beyond the rim of the galaxy. Something is coming. Something worse than the Hive. We attacked Vega IX to test its defenses, to see if your Union was ready. The Hive's multiple eyes scanned the room. You are not ready. But that ship, it pointed at Reynolds, that impossible ship gives you a chance. Murmurs spread through the chamber as the council members digested this information. The Archean representative chimed in. Are you suggesting cooperation, Commander Krizak? I am suggesting survival, the Hive replied. My people have been fleeing from this threat for generations. Now it approaches your space. The chamber erupted in voices. The council chair called for order repeatedly before the noise died down. In light of this new information, the chair announced, I propose we table the issue of sanctions against Earth for the Phoenix's design. Instead, I call for a vote on the following. Should the Phoenix's technology be shared with all Union species to prepare for this potential threat? Reynolds held his breath as the votes were tallied. The result appeared on screens around the chamber. By a margin of 1 vote, the chair announced, the motion passes. Earth will provide full technical disclosure of the Phoenix's systems to all member species. As they left the chamber, Reynolds turned to Admiral Wilson. Sir, if we share the Phoenix's designs. Wilson nodded. Every species will build their own versions. I know. He smiled slightly. But that was always the plan, Jake. Reynolds stopped walking. What do you mean? The Phoenix wasn't just a warship. It was a message. A wake-up call to a union that had become too comfortable with its own limitations. Wilson looked at the stars visible through a viewport. Sometimes you need to break the rules to survive what's coming next. Reynolds realized the Phoenix had been as much a political tool as a military one. So what happens now? Wilson placed a hand on Reynolds' shoulder. Now we prepare. Together. 6 months had passed since the emergency council meeting. Captain Jake Reynolds stood on the observation deck of Earth's main orbital shipyard, watching as the final work was completed on the UES Phoenix Sci. The new ship was larger than its predecessor, with sleek black armor and blue energy lines running along its hull. She's beautiful, isn't she? Admiral Wilson said, walking up beside him. Reynolds nodded. Bigger, faster, and hopefully less likely to tear itself apart. Wilson laughed. The engineers tell me the quantum drive issues have been completely resolved. No more microfractures. Reynolds turned to look at the other construction bays visible through the large window. 5 more ships of similar design were in various stages of completion. The Phoenix fleet is coming together nicely. Not just our fleet, Wilson said, handing Reynolds a datapad. Take a look. The pad showed images from shipyards across the Galactic Union, Veldaren ships with quantum pulse drives, Trill cruisers with advanced shield technology. Even the crystalline Arctians had adapted the Phoenix design to their unique requirements. Everyone's building their own versions, Reynolds said, and improving on our design in ways we never considered, Wilson added. The Veldarans found a way to make the quantum drive 15% more efficient. The Trill developed a new shield configuration that reduces power consumption. Reynolds smiled. So instead of an arms race, we got collaboration. Exactly. When faced with a common threat, old rivals become allies. Even the Hive are sharing some of their biotechnology with us now. A young officer approached them and saluted. Admiral, Captain, the launching ceremony is about to begin. They followed her to the main ceremony hall, which was filled with officers from Earth and representatives from every Union species. At the front of the room was a large view screen showing the Phoenix Eye and its docking clamp. Wilson took the podium. 6 months ago, the Phoenix was considered impossible. It broke rules that had limited our potential for centuries. Today, we launch not just a new ship, but a new era of cooperation. He gestured to the alien representatives. Each of your worlds has contributed to the Phoenix Eye. Veldaran engine improvements, Trill shield configurations, Arxian sensor arrays, even Hive biological interfaces. Together, we've built something greater than any of us could have created alone. Reynolds sat in the front row, next to Mira, who would again serve as chief engineer. She leaned over and whispered, "Did you ever think breaking the rules would lead to this?" Reynolds shook his head. Never. But I'm glad it did. After the speeches, Reynolds made his way to a shuttle that would take him to his new command. As he waited in the boarding area, Commander Davis approached. "Ready for another adventure, Captain?" Davis asked. "More than ready," Reynolds replied. "Though I admit, I'm curious about our mission." The orders were vague. Davis nodded. "All we know is that we're leading a mixed-species task force beyond the edge of charted space, to find whatever the Hive have been running from," Reynolds said quietly. The shuttle trip to the Phoenix Eye was short. When they arrived, Reynolds was surprised to see a diverse crew working throughout the ship, humans alongside Veldarans, Trill, and even a few Hive specialists. "Captain on deck," someone called out as Reynolds stepped onto the bridge. Reynolds looked around. The new bridge was larger, with more advanced displays. Some of the stations were designed specifically for non-human crew members, wider seats for the Veldarans, standing platforms for the Trill. "Status report," Reynolds ordered as he took his seat in the command chair. "All systems nominal, Captain. reported Lieutenant Parker from the helm. "Quantum drive at full capacity and stable. Engineering reports ready," added Mira from her station. Reynolds nodded. "Communications, hail the other ships in our task force." Lieutenant Mason worked her controls. "Channel open to all vessels." "Sir." The main screen lit up, showing the bridges of 6 other ships, one from each major Union species, plus the original Phoenix, now commanded by a Velderan captain named Krell. "Task force captains reporting in," Mason said. Reynolds addressed them. "This is Captain Reynolds of the Phoenix Eye. Our mission is to investigate the threat from beyond our galaxy's edge. We're venturing into unknown space, facing an enemy none of us has seen before." He paused. 6 months ago, we were arguing over whether ships like ours should exist. Today, we're flying them together. I'd call that progress." The alien captains nodded or made their species-equivalent gestures of agreement. "Prepare for departure," Reynolds ordered. "Form up on the Phoenix Eye once we clear the shipyard." The docking clamps released, and the Phoenix Eye moved smoothly away from the station. One by one, the other ships joined formation. The Velderan Light of Truth, the Trill Harmony of Stars, the Arxian Crystal Defender, and 3 more. As they approached the jump point, Reynolds felt a mixture of pride and tension. The first Phoenix had broken the rules out of necessity. This fleet existed because everyone had finally recognized that some rules needed to be broken. "Task force is in position," Captain Davis reported. "All ships report ready for quantum jump." Reynolds looked at his diverse bridge crew. "Lieutenant Parker, set course for the coordinates provided by the Hive Intelligence, beyond the galactic rim." "Course set, sir." Reynolds took a deep breath. "Signal all ships. Prepare for quantum jump on my mark." The bridge grew quiet as everyone prepared for the jump into the unknown. "All ships acknowledge ready, sir," Mason reported. Reynolds nodded. "Engage quantum drive." The stars on the view screen stretched into lines of light as the Phoenix Eye led the task force into quantum space. The impossible ship that shouldn't exist was now leading the greatest combined fleet in Union history. As the blue swirl of quantum space surrounded them, Reynolds thought about how far they had come. 6 months ago, they were outcasts for breaking the rules. Now they were the vanguard of a united galaxy. "Captain," Davis said quietly, "do you think we're ready for whatever's out there?" Reynolds watched as the task force followed them into the quantum tunnel, ships of different designs from different worlds all working together. "I don't know," he admitted, "but I do know this. If there's one thing humans are good at, it's breaking rules when they need to be broken. And now we've taught the rest of the galaxy how to do it too." Davis smiled. "Breaking rules creatively." "Exactly," Reynolds said. "And that might just save us all." The Phoenix Eye accelerated deeper into quantum space, its impossible engines pushing it faster than any ship should be able to go, breaking the rules of physics just as its creators had broken the rules of the Galactic Union. Behind it followed the United Fleet, heading toward an unknown enemy and an uncertain future, but doing so together. Sometimes, Reynolds thought, you had to break the rules to change the universe, and humans had always been very good at that.